Welcome back to Uncontested Investing. Today we're thrilled to have Ryan Marshall, CEO of Equity Protect, a leader in AI-driven real estate technology solutions that safeguards against deed and title theft. Starting as a real estate agent, Ryan co-founded DirectLender.com, built IRES funding into a successful wholesale lender, and launched Benutech Incorporated. He's a creator of the innovative Rebo Gateway platform as well. Now as CEO and co-founder of Equity Protect, Ryan is shaping the future of real estate and mortgage tech. Let's dive into his journey and the game-changing innovation he's leading. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Uncontested Investing. Today, sitting across from me is CEO of Equity Protect, Ryan Marshall. Ryan, first of all, fresh off a flight from Reno, thank you so much for making your first stop, the Uncontested Investing Studio. We're so happy to have you today.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
I'm excited for this conversation, not only for you as an individual, but for the company and the service that you provide for the real estate investment space, the real estate industry. So looking forward to this conversation. But let's start at the beginning. What do you remember about your start in the real estate industry? Was it family? Was it school? What really intrigued you about starting a company within the real estate industry?
So it's a funny story, actually. Academics used to be something that I valued early on in grade school and middle school and high school. I actually ended up suffering from a traumatic brain injury, and I had to relearn pretty much everything. I went to practical reading and writing. I had speech therapists, you name it. And one of the few professions, so obviously I didn't get into the colleges that I wanted to. And one of the few industries that I knew that I could excel at, right? You didn't have to, have a college degree to get into, was selling real estate. And so the day that I turned 18, I went down to Sacramento, California. I took my test, and believe it or not, I passed my test, which was crazy in itself. And I, at that point, was working at a fine dining restaurant in South Lake Tahoe, California. And I ran into somebody by the name of Floyd Wickman. He used to be a big real estate trainer back in late 90s. Mm-hmm. And he said if I were to sell real estate anywhere in the world, he'd go to Orange County, California. So I packed up my Mazda 323 and I drove to Orange County, California, and I started selling real estate out of my car.
Yeah, and you've had a few different positions, a lot of experience as we kind of flash forward to where you are now as a CEO of Equity Protect. But if you can remember back on those early days, you talk about driving your car and, relocating. The early days for anybody in the real estate industry can be a grind, right? Early success is here and there, but what did that previous experience and that start kind of in that grind mentality do for the rest of your career?
So honestly, it is believing in the process. It really is just having belief in a process, getting committed to a process, and staying committed to it. I can't tell you how many times I did want to give up, just like everyone else. A lot of times in this industry, you just want to give up. But you never know when your next deal is going to happen, mm-hmm. right? It could be tomorrow.
Yep. You got to keep that door open for the opportunity to fly right through. You talked about the ups and downs, the potential of leaving the industry. As somebody who is a veteran of it and went through 2008, the housing collapse, it was a bleak time for a lot of people. There was a lot of questions. A lot of people, as you mentioned, left the industry. What did that year allow you to do? Maybe it was longer than a year. Maybe it was shorter. Did you use that as a refresh, refocus? How did 2008 kind of shape the next 10, 15 years of your career?
So that's a great question. I think in 2008, it was longer than that, right? It took me a couple years to rebound from 2008. It humbled me, mm-hmm. right? So many people in this industry think that, it's never going to end, right? I mean, that's how I felt. When I got into the industry, I rode it from, 1998, 1999 to 2008. It was nothing but a ride. And then when it ended, which it always does, it was a big humbling experience, and it really provided me the opportunity to reflect on how much I did before 2008 and really grow from a really humbling and comfortable spot where now I appreciate the things that I have. And I get to touch lives, right? I mean, it's amazing.
No, that's honestly great. And I appreciate you sharing that, right? When you start speaking with CEOs, a lot of people just attach that to nothing but success. Life is easy for them.
Right.
But there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of roller coasters, ups and downs, and it's a journey to get to the mountaintop, right? So thank you for sharing that. And as you've made your journey throughout your career to CEO. I imagine there's two big objectives now with Equity Protect as it pertains to the health of the company itself and then the growth opportunity for the employees that you have.
Yeah.
How do you manage those two channels? Do you try to intersect them? Are they separate for you?
They are not. So I ended up selling a company to a public company in 2021, and I gave 2/3 of the company back to the employees. And I believe that you can't separate them. I believe that the employees are the DNA of the company. I believe that everything that we do as a team. We do it together. And even though I'm the one that's out there taking the risks, um, it's important to me to know that they are appreciated and acknowledged, and they're going to do everything in their power to move things along. As a result of that, they take care of our clients. They make sure customer service is spot on. You know, they give products away, right? They have the ability to make decisions on the fly, which is called a Kaizen theory. And they're empowered to do that. And I do believe that you have to combine those two.
And where does that leadership style come for you? Is that something that you learned over time? Was there mentors involved that kind of you kind of pick and choose things you like from other people that you respect in the industry?
Yeah, so I think it's a combination of everything. So I am a big promoter of life coaches. And so you can imagine through 2008, I had a lot of them. And at that point, again, 2008, I was 28 years old. One of my life coaches said, you don't know what it's like until you have a downturn, right? Oh, I can weather it. I'm the most arrogant SOB out there, right? And what's funny is I truly believe that I was operating a company with, out of integrity and employees that, love to be there. And really at the end of the day, we had, I don't know, maybe 150 or 160 people in 2008. And I ended up with maybe 5 or 6 that I still are core people to me today. But out of 150 who I thought would follow me everywhere I went, only 5 or 6 were there. And so it becomes humbling, right? And you really want to make a difference for those 5 or 6 people.
Yeah. Ryan, thank you so much.
Sure.
We're off to a great start with this episode. As you can see, Ryan, with the insight, powerful responses already. Stay tuned after the break. We're going to get into the Money Making Minute and learn more about Equity Protect, the company that Ryan is the CEO for. REI Inc. is the premier monthly publication for real estate investors. Dive into a wealth of expert insights and knowledge from industry leaders and gain valuable regional market insights, ensuring you always have the best information right at your fingertips. Visit reiinc.com to elevate your real estate investment game today. Welcome back to this week's episode of Uncontested Investing. I am joined by CEO of Equity Protect, Ryan Marshall. Ryan, it's time to put you on the spot for the first time with our Money Making Minute, first segment of the episode. So as a quick reminder, the Money Making Minute is an investment strategy or an app, a skill maybe that you've developed throughout your career, even a habit, a daily part of your routine, something that helps Ryan Marshall be more successful that you want to share with our audience to help them in 2025 and beyond. Let's hear your Money Making Minute.
So my money making minute would be buying more real estate, right? I sold a data company in December of 2021. Not only was I the founder and CEO of that company, but I was a member, right? I mean, that entire company was driven by data. And so on my off hours, I have a few different strategies that I use data with, primarily through Rebo Gateway and Title Toolbox. I have very specific things that I like to invest into. I combined things like affidavits of death that are filed on a piece of property with an out-of-state owner. Those seem to be pretty profitable for me. I've also developed a strategy around state liens, state estate liens, which once you understand the ins and outs of how they work, it's became pretty valuable for me. And that's actually how I acquire the homes that I do.
Ryan, I appreciate that insight. Those are two creative strategies, and I think thinking outside the box is something that can set investors apart in this industry. A lot of people have those old and tired ways of generating leads and don't even know about those creative solutions. So I appreciate you sharing that. I do want to move on to Equity Protect, though, because I think it's a fascinating company and one that if people don't know about it in this industry, they definitely should. So your foundation of the company is essentially protecting deeds and titles of properties. Where did this idea come? How did it come to fruition, and how has it been, on the journey of seeing it grow into what it is now?
Yeah. So deed fraud, essentially, so having been in the real estate business for, a few years, you think about real estate fraud and you're like, oh yeah, it would never happen to me, right? Oh yeah, never, never, never. And after I sold the data company in 2021, I was quickly courted by a large title company to take a look at another company that was out promoting an idea, or this idea about people being able to steal titles. And being in the real estate, you don't hear much about it, or you didn't then. You're kind of like, oh yeah, right, could never happen. Well, you start doing some research, right? Start figuring out, well, Elvis Presley property. Somebody tried to steal Elvis's property, right? The Empire State Building got stolen by a bunch of reporters back in 2011 or 2012, right? And so I was asked by the title company at that point to take a look at a competitor, or not even a competitor, but somebody else that was in the space. And they're looking at making a capital investment into it. And so it was from that point that I was able to do some research, start to figure out, hey, there really is a need, right? There are 88 million parcels in this country today that are at what I would call high risk. There's no insurance for it. There's no protection for it. You can't prevent it. You have no idea that it's even happening to you oftentimes. And the crime is evolving where, on TV, you would see some of the competitors promoting the idea that they would change a deed and go down to the county recorder and record it, which you can do, right? But what they don't advise you is, there's also things with like private money where they do an assignment on a loan, then they try to foreclose on the property, right? Right. I mean, there's so many ways that people are doing it. And so Equity Protect really was designed to stop the fraud from occurring, making sure that you're dealing with the lawful owner of the property. And then we provide post-transaction or post-closing insurance in the event that anything were ever to happen.
Nice. So can you take me inside that process a little bit? I'm sure investors are a little curious here. How essentially would it keep their property safe? What does that look like as you go through the process of utilizing Equity Protect and its services?
Yeah, so great question. So really the first thing that we had to do was establish who's at risk, right? Once we could carve out the low risk people, right? These are people with high LTVs, right? It's a financial crime. Why are they going to steal a property if they can't make money off of it, right? So you start carving out what those low risk opportunities are versus high risk opportunities. And something flagged, was a quick flag for us, which is, hey, imagine if we created a mechanism where if we did all of the title curative for the lawful owner of the property, we recorded a lien where the lawful owner is the beneficiary, right? And they're the ones that are required to transfer the lien or subordinate or terminate the lien. Then it makes it so it's a pretty secure solution. And so that's exactly what we've done.
Nice. And I assume your company is aligned with data security. So you're talking about dealing with documents and data securitization. With the rise of AI, I'm sure you've had to bat away a lot of attempts at the fraud, a lot of challenges. What are the pros and cons of AI and kind of dealing with that as a company?
So AI for us internally, number one, it's a phenomenal tool if you know how to use it and where to use it and where you should use it, right? And it's also a pretty scary space, right? I do know that there's some projects that are happening right now in the Middle East where there's handwriting detections, there's signature, imposters, and there's a bunch of really, really scary things that are happening at the moment. I think for us, our solution is a safeguard from all of it, right? It's pretty simple. We create a lien on the property, and the only person that can unlock it is the lawful owner, right?
Yeah. Simple is better in some cases.
Exactly.
One of the stats or things that I saw advertised on your website that I was really impressed with is as a company, you analyze over 1,100 data points or just there about how happy are you with that number? And then in turn, what does that mean for the end consumer, right? I have to imagine that allows them to have some peace of mind, put them at ease a little bit that you guys go through so many rigorous things to ensure security.
Yeah. So a good question, right? Reading our website. So the reason why we do what we do is so not only do we do the free monitoring that the counties do, but we have also identified that targets targets of the crime don't occur overnight, right? They're carefully sought after. They're people with no mortgages, and how the crime occurs evolves. And so if we're paying attention to things like a mailing address on a tax bill change, right, which is one of the, a key indicator, then we have to figure out all of those entry points that somebody's going to be modifying or changing, both on the dark web, on public record, and we combined all of those data points into what I call a risk assessment report. And then once you become a client, we run those reports on you every day.
I want to switch gears a little bit. I think one of the important things that happened for you this year were you were granted patents as a company for Equity Protect. And just through the lens of other potential business owners, CEOs, it can maybe be overlooked sometimes or brushed under the rug. How important was that for you to secure those? What is that process like? And then what does that mean for you going forward?
Yeah. So I think patents, I'm indifferent, right? I think if you're going out and if you're raising money, or if it's important to investors that you have kind of a stake in the ground, or obviously it signifies that you have something special, I think it's an important function. I also think that it's really just a license to pursue somebody if they violate it, right?
Okay.
You still have to defend it.
Yep.
And so I'm indifferent on the patent idea. I know it's super important to some people. For me, it's important to me if it's important to you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's why it's important to me.
Offers you a little bit of leverage too, I would imagine, going forward, like you mentioned.
Sure.
Very cool. So there's a deep dive into Equity Protect with Ryan Marshall. We're going to take our second and final break of the episode. We'll be right back with Deal Breaker, Deal Maker. At RCN Capital, we know that time is money. With our competitive rates and quick turnaround time, you can receive funding in as little as 10 days. We offer flexible payment plans to relieve the pressure of the repayment process. Our team is experienced in making sure that you choose a loan that will suit you best. So get on the phone with a loan officer today by emailing info@rcncapital.com or clicking the link in our bio. And welcome back to this week's episode of Uncontested Investing. So far, it's been a great conversation with CEO of Equity Protect, Ryan Marshall. And Ryan, it's time for our second and final segment of the episode. It's the Deal Breaker, Deal Maker. So as a reminder, this is a turning point in your career, something that you can think back on, whether it's a low point or something that catapulted you to success. If it's a day, a year, anything that really has brought you to where you are today with the success of being a CEO at Equity Protect, what does that look like for you?
The first point in my career when I ended up getting a real estate coach. Back then it used to be the Mike Ferry organization. It was Matthew, Mike, and Tom. And I used to go into what they would call OTP, over the phone training. And I recall my first Saturday, nervous as I possibly could ever be. And again, I was 18 years old. I had one pair of slacks and one shirt to my name. Showed up at their office an hour early, had recited all the scripts, and there were other real estate agents that were piling in, right? And I remember that day I set 11 listing appointments from for sale by owners and expired listings. And the closest person to me set up 2 that day. And so that in my mind was I was meant for this industry. I was meant for this space. And so I think for that reason, I'm always grateful to the Mike Ferry organization.
Another great story there, Ryan. Thank you for sharing that. And you've brought it up a few times already, so I want to pivot to this question a little early. But in terms of mentors, life coaches, coaches in the industry, it's a very hot topic in the real estate investment space, right? Do these new investors need coaches of any kind? Are there scams out there where you have to put down a bunch of money and don't really see that return on your investment? How do you view that mentor, life coach, coaching segment of the industry?
So I'm a firm believer in life coaches, without a doubt. I believe that you can't solve a problem with the same mindset that you created it. And I do think that, life coaches that you could trust, that are there for obviously your best interests in helping you grow as an individual, is important. Also keeping in mind, I got into this industry when I was 18. If I could go back and if I could tell myself when I was 18, right, I had ambition, I had drive, I had, determination. I didn't have experience. And I think for that reason, I still to this day leverage reading books, finding as many mentors that I possibly can, if it sits on boards or even life coaches in general.
Mhm.
I'm a big promoter of it.
Nice. And transitioning to the bright lights, we're on camera right now. You're somebody that appears on a lot of podcasts, TV outlets, news outlets. How has that been for you, not only being able to spread the word of Equity Protect, but in terms of a mindset and approach, has that helped you professionally at all?
It's a growth opportunity for me. So to be fair, I'm a pretty private person.
Mhm.
So being on camera and doing these podcasts is uncomfortable, to say the
We
least.
appreciate you being uncomfortable with us. Though.
Right.
You're doing
Exactly.
great today.
Exactly. And I think though that's the space, right?
Mhm.
If you're not uncomfortable, then you're not growing. And so I'm always willing to take that opportunity and step into the uncomfortableness.
Awesome. And then back to the trade shows and networking, another opportunity not only to grow the presence of a company, but to meet people that can
Mhm.
help you not only next week, but next year and throughout the rest of your career. How have you viewed trade shows and networking throughout the course of your career?
So I think that it's extremely important when you have a purpose, right? I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that crash them. They like the social elements
Yeah.
of it. My best suggestion to anybody, which, myself included, is go to the trade shows with a purpose. Before you go to the trade shows, try to get a list, contact people, set up meetings, right? I mean, get 150% out of it. And they're 100% worth it.
I love that approach. So back to Equity Protect. Impressive so far what you've been able to do and carve out in the space. Is there a next chapter? Is there a next project? Anything big being released maybe early 2025 or what's coming down the pipeline for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, obviously growing sales is always a big, milestone. So our next milestone is going to be boarding 100 properties a day. That's going to be our next milestone or goal. Um, and I think in addition to that, our patent, we talked about patents before, has opened up other opportunities where there's a couple states that are changing their laws on how they treat documents, what has to be private, what could be public, how they give or authorize, permission to view certain things. And so our technology fits very nicely
Awesome.
into that. And it
Mhm.
was just happened to be at the right place at the right
Yeah,
time
there
again.
you go. Sometimes that's what it's all about.
That's right.
Now, to one of my favorite questions that I ask guests, this industry can be grueling. It can have its ups and downs. I think your career
Yeah.
is a perfect testament to what I'm about to ask. But is there a passion project, an outlet, a hobby, something that allows you to kind of hit that off switch, refresh and recharge? And when you're CEO at Equity Protect, you feel 100% again because of something you did in your free time?
So I ended up buying a ranch and I have pigs, goats, sheep, you name it. And I think working on a ranch and really being able just to disconnect and focus on specific things gives you a fulfillment that I don't think you get anywhere else.
Mm.
And for that, I'm truly grateful.
Nice. You had a catchy name for is it the Marshall Ranch? Is it the Ryan Ranch? Have you named it yet?
I don't yet, but I do have a Wagyu bull and Black Angus heifers. And so I'm starting a Wangus line,
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
which is, here
Very
goes.
cool.
Maybe a
Very
different
cool.
calling.
Yeah, nice. I love that. I love that. I think the last thing to do besides thank you for your time today is kind of let you explain where people can find more about you, yourself, the company, its mission, its services. Other than the website, are there great places to reach out and learn more about Equity Protect?
Yeah, so we've been doing a fair bit of work with a lot of the social conservative outlets. So we have Hugh Hewitt, we have Dennis Prager, we have a bunch of people that are out there promoting our product and trying to help educate people. In addition to that, obviously the website is an important, resource. And the company, despite my resistance to it, has set up a LinkedIn page. So you can find us on LinkedIn, which is a new thing. So be gentle.
Love it. Love it. Well, Ryan, as I said, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you stopping by the studio, sharing your insight and your industry experience. I'll let you get some rest and good luck at the trade show tomorrow. This has been a great conversation. So thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
For our listeners, it's time to check out Equity Protect. Great company. They're there to help investors sleep at night a little bit better, protecting your deeds and titles. Please go check out Equity Protect. There should be a link in the description of this video to learn more about Ryan and the mission that they're accomplishing over there at Equity Protect. For Uncontested Investing, please comment your favorite part of this episode, like and subscribe if you can. It helps our community grow. We can continue to get great guests like Ryan to grace our studios. I appreciate your time today. For Uncontested Investing, this is Nate Zielinski signing off. We'll see you all in the next one.
Thank you for listening to Uncontested Investing. Questions about today's episode or the podcast? Email podcast@rcncapital.com and make sure to follow REI Inc. magazine on LinkedIn and Facebook and RCN Capital on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook. See you all next time.